Welcome to TIA's Connectivity Jam, where we have the pleasure of speaking with leaders in our industry on key topics that drive businesses. Joining us on this segment of TIA Now is Betty Mineta, President and CEO of Argent Associates. Welcome, Betty.
Welcome, Deborah. It's great to be here again.
You're an entrepreneur, CEO of two tech-centric companies, Argent Associates and Associar, and you serve on the TIA board. With all the buzz at TIA about IoT, AI, artificial intelligence, and machine learning, how are you engaging to play a role in these fascinating areas?
Great question, and it is such a buzz, and everybody's talking about it. So we've been engaged in a lot of these different platforms, IoT, artificial intelligence, for several years now. So in the IoT space, we have been doing that since the late or early 2000s, when it wasn't called IoT. It was really a lot of data gathering, and what we do is, for example, tracking of assets with GPS systems, that you can track assets, you can see what's happening to them relative to temperature, humidity, shock treatment, everything globally from the full supply chain. So now that is driving a lot of data for customers to understand what happened to my asset, what happened to my sensors that got damaged in transport. So we've been playing in that space for a long time, but it wasn't called IoT. And then artificial intelligence, we're doing now some fraud detection, utilizing data that's kind of machine learning and predictive analytics that will determine if there's any fraud within corporations in their own system. So again, we're playing heavily in that area, and it's a dynamic, growing area.
Texas Instruments just recently announced the introduction of its innovative radar sensors, 9 years in the making. They want everybody on the planet to design new applications. What advice and coaching would you give the next generation, or even this generation of entrepreneurs, in engaging in the technology landscape?
Well, I think if you don't engage in the landscape, you're going to be left behind. And we've seen that time and time again, where companies are not looking at the next generation, what's happening in the technology sector. And now more and more, it's a lot easier to do. So companies are starting to engage, and all I say is not everybody's going to be a software developer, not everyone's going to be doing certain things, but understand where are the low-hanging fruits, understand where you can participate, knowing what your company can do, but continuously look at what's happening. These disruptors are happening, and they happen in every industry. And we've seen it happen with Uber and Lyft, Airbnb, disrupting the hotel industry. So when you think about that, companies need to start thinking about technology. And oh, by the way, it's a great way to launch your business and reduce your cost.
TIA had a panel on supplier diversity and its impact for minority and women-owned businesses. How do you see this industry adapting to continue to grow and be inclusive of minority and women-owned businesses? And what do you see as the challenges of the industry to succeed?
So, I'm on the panel for supplier diversity, and one of the things it's critical. I serve on the board of the Dallas-Fort Worth Minority Council, where I'm the Minority Business Enterprise Chair. I also serve on the Women's Business Council Southwest, on their board, and I also serve on the board of the U.S. Hispanic Chamber and the local Greater Dallas Hispanic Chamber. And I do that specifically for a reason. We need to ensure that our voices, that opportunities are there for our constituents. You know, if we are not at the table, we're not going to be able to compete and to grow our businesses. And how do you then take care of the community? How does that trickle down for economic wealth? And the only way it can happen is that we do it, and we do it specifically for the purpose of growth. And so we have the Dallas-Fort Worth Minority Council, we have something that says, buy those that buy us. And the Women's Council have something called Act Intentionally, which means that if you're going to spend money with those companies that are buying and supporting women and minority companies. If you think of the landscape, right, the fastest growing sector is women-owned businesses. And when you look at Latinas, and if you look at it as a whole, we are generating, I think it's like $13 billion, or 13 million jobs at $1.3 trillion of revenue. That's a lot of money and a lot of jobs that we're producing. So we need to ensure that we're at the table, especially when you start looking at technology, because that's going to be growing so rapidly. How do we ensure that our members, our women, and our minority companies are at the table to ensure that we're getting some of that piece of the pie?
Where do you see the opportunities for SME, small, medium-sized enterprise, to realize business growth, i.e. autonomous vehicles, smart cities, applications development, big data analytics, etc.?
So there's, Deborah, let me tell you, it's just amazing the amount of opportunity that's out there that people just don't understand what it all means. Or some do, but what we try to do is educate them too. So part of my job is sitting on some of these boards is really having town meetings, doing lunch and learns to make sure that they understand what's happening in the industry. So when you look at a smart city, for example, there's some low-hanging fruits. It's connecting cities, there's going to be a lot of architectural stuff, a lot of equipment that's coming from major OEMs, manufacturers, but there's a role for us to play in there. And I think that the more municipalities and companies ensure that the language in their contracts or their bids requests the inclusion of small, minority, and medium-sized businesses and women-owned businesses, I think you're going to start seeing a more aggressive look at that, and they're doing it. I know in New York, there is a 30% inclusion of minority and women-owned businesses for a lot of their state contracts. And so I think that we have to do that a little bit more often, and that's going to be true of smart cities. It's also going to be true of autonomous vehicles. There's going to be a lot of testing, a lot of data gathering. So there are pockets of opportunities for our members to play. And so I think that that's a great area for us to focus on and find the little nuggets of capability that we can participate in.
Innovation continues to be a word utilized by everyone as they talk about opportunities and direction. How do you see SMEs profiting from their innovative ideas and prototypes?
So innovation, I love it because there are so many things that people are innovating every day. And we just recently heard at TIA the S-curve. So every time there's an S-curve, there's a new technology, new something coming out. And then there's another one that follows it and another one that follows it. So it's always staying ahead of the S-curve, if you will. And we have a lot of very talented people, and I hear every day of new innovative things coming out from our community. The problem is that when you have a new innovative idea, I guess if it doesn't come from somebody large, it's can't be innovative because, well, who's using it? And I always, and that kills me because I always tell them, well, if it's innovative, it's new. So maybe it's not being used right now, but I think we have a great opportunity. And now with 3D printing, you could do prototyping very inexpensively if you have a new product, a new idea. We just, yesterday, there was a small, one of these Shark Tanks, and there was a company there that had some really creative, innovative solutions that Walmart is using in their store. So again, it doesn't have to cost a lot, and to do prototypes with 3D is very simple. And so I think that we need to continuously drive innovation and make sure that you protect your intellectual property, because that is important, and continue to push and plow, because we are the economic growth engine, and we are the companies that are making a difference in this country now and in the future.
Thanks so much for being with us today, Betty.
Thank you, Deborah. Always a pleasure.